What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some acid-trance, and indeed, we're back for the final tune in a series of reactions to a number of versions of the tune My World by Bismark. This is the Jan, or maybe Jan, I'm now convinced it's probably more Jan, but either way, this is the Jan Vervloet remixes. It's a version I've wanted for a very long time, and not just because it has a nice, cool, sort of tiger style, maybe not quite the right color, but colored vinyl. And yeah, I reacted to remix 1 from Mr. Vervloet here, which I had an MP3 of for many years. And because a couple people made donations to me and I saw a very good or near mint copy of this become available, I figured I'd take a chance. And so here we are. So again, shout out to Kim, shout out to Stephan, who made a donation right at the perfect time for me to get a copy of this record, which I have wanted, again, for a very long time. So yeah, ultimately, I mentioned before, I like all 3 versions on the Telica record. What my favorite is depends on what kind of set I'm thinking of playing and maybe just, what my feeling is on that given day. The remix that I've already reacted to from this record, even though it was based on my MP3, or, it was the MP3 that we listened to, I also like that a great deal, and to me, it would work very well with the clubby mix. It's sort of in a similar territory, very euphoric, bubbly acid. I've heard a snippet of Remix 2 because I was trying to figure out which one it was when I did that reaction, because the MP3 I had just said Jan Vervloet Remix. It didn't say 1 or 2. So I figured out, by checking online versions of the tunes that was 1. So we're going to listen to 2, which, again, I know a very tiny bit, but I certainly haven't spent years listening to. So here we go. This is Bismark, My World, the Jan Vervloet Remix 2, which I believe, yes, is this side, from 1997 on BXR, which again is an Italian label. Probably 45? We'll know quickly. Well, there's the answer. Nice thump to the kick. Now that acid warble is in Remix 1, but it comes in much later. If I'm remembering correctly. To be fair, that one I've only heard a few times over the years. Whereas, the Pablo Gargano mix, the clubby mix, even the Silver Moon mix, which maybe I've heard slightly fewer times than the other 2. But we're talking like hundreds of times. Bit of melancholy to it. Do enough videos, you get such a good sense for exactly where the red line is. It was just on the edge, it was redlining a little bit in the left channel, and it's I could hear that for a second. Pensive, in your head version. All those backing strings strings that sort of give it that melancholy tilt. That little pause, shuffle beat, great drop. That big fat acid riff is right in the foreground, but there was a different like rhythm. It was like really like in the background of the tune. It feels like he had the ingredients for his remix, and he was like, man, I could do it this way, I could do it that way. Let's do both. Because again, there's overlapping elements, but the configuration and the chronology is very different. And admittedly, there's a slightly different feel to this one overall. Music type to listen to coming home from 90s rave parties, or the second half of the 90s for me, than melodic acid trance. When I listened to the snippet. I love it. This would be great on the way out, like working into another tune with this, sprinkling over the transition. That 90s trance bass line. Tonal shifts in it. Speaks to a bygone age. Yep, it's the record is in great condition as advertised. Shout out to the seller in question. Yeah, ultimately, I don't even know at this point. I like in the moment, I want to say I rank that slightly higher than the Remix 1, but I did notice Remix 1 has that really like deep and gritty part, like it's doing that high sort of organ style melody, and then it comes in with a really deep acid at one point. I love that moment. That moment is not in this version, but I like the sequencing of this version maybe a little bit better, as well as that melancholy feel with the strings and that like melodic, like pensive kind of melodic acid riff. So yeah, I basically don't know, but in the moment I feel like this is a very good remix that I would put up against any of the others. Though again, it's like I put them in different categories. Like this one maybe I feel like I'd put in the same category as the Silver Moon. Again, Remix 1, maybe because it has a bit more like brightness, euphoric feel to it. I'd put it in with the clubby mix. The Pablo mix is often its own like hard trance, like staring at the ground, just kind of, dark dancing type of environment. And then the, I mentioned them all, didn't I? Because I was going to put the Silver Moon in in a different category, but right. So basically, like, there's the more melodic versions, there's the more straightaway acidic kind of euphoric versions, and then there's Pablo's track, which again is what I bought the record for in the first place. Though I mentioned, I think at the time when I reacted to that mix, when I got it, I was surprised because it's not really an acid trance mix. It's like straight away hard trance. There's not, so many of Pablo's tunes, 96, 97, like they just have, howling and layered acid work throughout the tune. But I still like that one a great deal. So again, for different days and different sets, the different versions all are tasty, I think. So once again, shout out to Kim, shout out to Stephan, shout out to all the people who've become like paid members on Patreon, and or there's a couple people who send me donations outside of that, including Kim. Once again, you're like the major hero of life on my channel. I really do appreciate you. But yeah, ultimately, I am going to use one or both of these mixes, probably not in the same set, although maybe sometimes you can get away with that if you bookend it. If you start a mix with one version of a tune and then you end with another version of the tune that's in a similar place, then it sort of gives it that concept kind of mix where like you're coming home to where you started with, whereas other mixes you might speed up and the mix is more linear or even exponential if you're literally speeding up the pitch. So yeah, bottom line, expect to hear one or both of these versions in a soon-to-be acid trance session, now that I got the video mixes going again. And Luca, for the first 6 months or 7 months, like you couldn't do a video mix, or like I couldn't do any mixes without like closing the door and putting her out there, and I feel terrible doing that, even though like there's a cat tree, there's all sorts of stuff she can do out there. But yeah, it's gotten to the point now where she can see records playing and is like, okay, I guess I'll just go to sleep right here. So yeah, we're back to video mixes. Let me know what you think of this version. I will see you next time. Peace.